You might be wondering why you would ever go from needing a part-time virtual assistant to two full-time virtual assistants. Well, today's guest, he's got the answer.
Welcome to the Snapscale Show, hosted by Mike Yablonowitz and Nathan Bush. In every episode, we explore the real challenges and breakthroughs happening in modern healthcare operations. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get the latest episodes and visit snapscale.com to learn more. Let's simplify healthcare operations together. This is the Snapscale Show.
Dr. Landen Green is the owner of Caravel Health and also founder of three other healthcare-based organizations: Direct Fitness Collab, Stay Well Health, and Direct Therapy Directory. Three distinct healthcare businesses operating simultaneously with a small, lean team. He's building the virtual infrastructure to scale all three without sacrificing the quality of care or operational control. Dr. Green, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. You run three separate healthcare businesses. Walk me through what that actually looks like on a regular Tuesday morning.
So it's four because Caravel Health. So the three that I run through with Snapscale and then the DPC practice as well. So, but a typical morning. So I generally meet every morning with the virtual assistants around 8, and we meet for an hour about what the goals are for that day, what the plan is for that day or for that week, what we're sort of focused on, what the high priority tasks are, and make sure that all their needs are met, that they have everything that they need to make to do their jobs efficiently. And then I kind of don't touch base with them throughout the rest of the day. I trust them to do what they need to do. I go to Caravel Health and see my patients and then meet with them again the next morning, and they sort of send me updates on how their day went and what the updates are for the week.
So before we jump into talking about the virtual assistants and what you're doing with all those, just kind of walk me through what you're building, because it's a lot.
Yeah. So to start with, Caravel Health is the direct primary care practice that sort of started this entrepreneurial spirit in myself. And after about 2 years of growing that business, I was ready to start more because I really enjoy the process of growing and building something. And so just ideas started floating around in my head about what I could do. And one of the things that I thought was lacking from my practice was consistent accountability for patients when it comes to lifestyle modification. So they meet with me, even if they meet with me once a month, a lot of times that's not enough for patients. And once your practice is full, it's hard to see every patient every month to talk about these things. And so that's where Direct Fitness Collab was built, where it's a collaboration between a wellness advisor who's trained in nutrition and exercise guidance, who meets with patients and keeps the doctor updated on their plans and sort of acts as an extension of the doctor's practice to help ease that accountability process and it helped answer some questions for the patient. And then Direct Therapy Directory sort of came as another place where I thought that my practice was lacking, where I would have patients who really needed therapy but couldn't find a good therapist. They would email 50 different therapists and not really get good responses, or they would get connected with a therapist and then find out that therapist wasn't a good fit for them or wasn't professional or whatever. And so that's where the Direct Therapy Directory was born, was just to make high quality therapists more accessible to patients in the direct primary care and concierge practice areas. And so in order for a therapist to be on the directory, they have to meet with me and have like a 15-minute interview just to make sure that they're professional. And they are required to respond to patient emails within an appropriate amount of time, usually within 2 or 3 business days, just to make sure that the patient knows that they're heard and listened to. And then the second level mission for the directory is to give back to the communities. And so 50% of the revenue that comes in through the therapist membership goes directly back to nonprofit organizations who help pay for the mental health therapy services for adolescents and young adults. And so it's kind of like a 50-50 split. It's not a nonprofit, but it kind of works that way for me, where 50% of the revenue that's generated goes into marketing directory, marketing the therapist, letting people know that this platform exists. And then the other 50% goes directly back into these nonprofit organizations who financially help support adolescents and young adults. And then Stable Health came from when I was on vacation, and I had, or a family member of mine had a health issue come up. And I'm a doctor, my wife is a doctor, so it was easy for us to say, yes, this is what's going on. I'll send a medication in the pharmacy, we'll get it taken care of. But that kind of triggered, well, what do other people do? And they would have had to waste half a vacation day or maybe a full vacation day in an urgent care waiting to get this thing taken care of, when it could have been taken care of over a simple, phone call. And so Stable Health is an organization where short-term rentals like Airbnbs and Verbos, those kind of things, those property managers or owners pay a monthly fee to include a telehealth service into their stay for guests as an included amenity. And that way, when patients come there, or when their guests come there and have some health condition come up, they can easily connect to a clinician, not waste a vacation day, not leave their vacation early, and then that costs the owner revenue. And also it creates this huge competitive advantage for these property owners to offer this amenity that not many other people are offering. So that's the baseline for those three companies, and also Caravel Health.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now, before you brought on virtual staff, though, obviously you're building 4 different businesses at the same time. What specific thing was falling through the cracks most often, or what was the original thought on what you needed support with?
Oh, my first thought was everything. everything was falling through the cracks. From a marketing standpoint and outreach to even following up with leads, and or people that were signing up for services, being sure that that was a smooth process for them. So there was a lot of things that I needed help with, and that's sort of what stemmed my desire to hire a virtual assistant.
Yeah. So you told me that you used ChatGPT to build a candidate list or a company list or a hit list of companies to go talk to, and then interviewed a bunch of different people before you chose Snapscale. What were you actually evaluating, and what did you need to see that most companies weren't showing you?
That's a great question. So yeah, I kind of nerded out a little bit on my search for a virtual assistant company, because I didn't want to start with a company or start with a virtual assistant and things not work out, and then that not only be wasted time and money, but it also be what wasted opportunity, where those 3 or 6 months or however long it took that was unsuccessful was not only 3 or 6 months of time and money, but also 3 or 6 months where something could have been growing and been successful. And so it was really, really important to me to do my due diligence and find the best company and the best virtual assistants to work with to make sure that that didn't happen. And so I created this Excel sheet of the companies, of all the different companies that offered virtual assistants, of the price point, sort of what they excelled in, maybe some of the weaknesses, what their reviews were, what they offered in terms of part-time or full-time, and used ChatGPT and other AI to help create that sort of top 10 list of companies that fit my needs. And my needs, I sort of narrowed it down to, if I could have someone like a marketing specialist, that would be probably the biggest bonus, because they could manage all the social media platforms, they could do email campaigns, they could do meta ads, and they could be, sort of revenue generating, right? Versus not. So that I felt, during the beginning stages of all 3 of these companies, that was where the biggest value was. And so I was really looking for that. And no matter where I looked, Google, ChatGPT, Grok, like all these things, Snapscale was routinely at the top. I was hesitant at first because I really only wanted a part-time VA. All 3 of these companies were brand new, bootstrapped, capitals coming directly from me. And so, I didn't really, I was hoping to find a part-time one just to see how it fit, because I was hesitant, I think, like anyone is, at bringing on a VA, when they're not used to it and they don't know it. So I was really looking for that. And so out of that top 10 list, I emailed all 10 of them, and then probably interviewed about 8 different representatives for each of those companies. And with those 8, I met with virtual assistants from 3 of those companies. 2 of those 3 offered part-time virtual assistants, and I probably met with 6 or so virtual assistants between the 2 other companies that were part-time. And Snapscale, I was really not super interested in, again, because I was really wanting a part-time. But I met I met with Mr. Bush, and he was like, "Look, just go through there's no obligation. Just go through our process, meet our VAs. If you like them, great. If not, and you still want to do part-time, that's fine too. But at least, look to see how we do things and the quality of candidates that we offer." So I said, "Okay, I guess it doesn't hurt." And I went from being hesitant about hiring 1 part-time VA to hiring 2 full-time VAs, and probably hiring a 3rd full-time VA at some point in the near future. And so because of that experience and meeting with several other companies, interviewing candidates from other VA companies, and being a part of the Snapscale team now for quite some time, and working with these virtual assistants, I can confidently say that I made the right decision, and would encourage anyone to sort of take the leap and do the same.
Appreciate that. When we started working together, you gave me a very specific picture of what you wanted day 30 to look like, or what you wanted to look like after 30 days. I know, because I asked you that. What was that? What did you want to accomplish after 30 days?
Yeah, that was actually a recommendation from the Snapscale team to sort of formulate a virtual assistant onboarding package that set clear expectation and clear goals at the 30, 60, and 90-day mark. And so I took that to heart, because like I said, I didn't want to waste any opportunity or time or money doing this and not do it the right way. And so I created this onboarding packet. And at 30 days, I wanted the virtual assistants to feel invested, to feel some ownership over the projects that they were working with, and sort of instill some passion about these projects within them. And then also make sure that they had all the resources that they needed. So they had, the logins to all the websites and the social media accounts. They were able to manage them, that they had access to the Canva account, and like all those things. So I wanted everything to be set up as far as they were on board, they were invested, and they were able to implement any plan that we needed to do. And it was incredibly successful.
Yeah, you said the word plan, and that reminded me, when we talked, you used the word entrepreneurial, which I thought was strange for talking about virtual assistants. That's not a word that most people use when they're hiring admin staff. What does that actually mean to you in practice? And what do you think that looks like when a VA is doing that versus when they're not entrepreneurial?
That's another thing that I really liked about Snapscale, is that because they're full-time, I think they're a little bit more invested in the projects that they're working on. And they're not only just, and I encourage them to, so it all comes down from the personality of you and their boss, right? But I encourage them to think outside the box, and encourage them to bring me ideas and things. And because they're so good, and because they have such great experience, they're able to do that. And it's less me just, obviously, like, I have goals and plans and items that I want them to focus on and prioritize, but it's not just me telling them what to do and them doing it, which would be fine. And I think that's, what a lot of VAs do. And that's fine. It can be successful. But I think where Snapscale VAs really take it the step up is they'll also bring ideas of themselves to the table. One good example of that is, the virtual assistants taught me about, SEO and GEO and how important that is. And I had heard about SEO, and one of the virtual assistants that I have is like an expert at that. And then he was telling me about GEO, which is basically now people, like I was doing, searching for Snapscale and ChatGPT and all these AI. So GEO, when someone asks ChatGPT a question, what's the best XYZ business near me? If that part of the system is not optimized, then your company's not going to show up. And so they're bringing these suggestions to me, or they're bringing suggestions like, what do you think about doing a meta campaign addressing this angle? Or what do you think about one of the things for Stable Health that was their idea was, what do you think about reaching out to cleaning companies and saying, hey, if you refer us like a short-term rental that you're routinely cleaning, it's going to increase your revenue because you're going to be cleaning their property more often because they're going to get more people, and we'll also like incentivize you with a $200 bonus or something like that for referral or something like that. And so they're bringing these marketing ideas to me rather than just me saying, hey, I want you to do this and this is what you're going to focus on. And I think that's, being an entrepreneur and having different businesses, when you can have people that are invested in your business and have people bringing ideas to the table too, it just makes things so much more exciting.
Yeah, when we started working together, you also built I tell people to do this, but they don't often do it. You built a daily reporting structure. So you have activity counts every day, outcome summaries every week. Walk me through, in actuality, what's on that report and what it looks like for you.
So it's changed a bit. We've edited a lot to make it as sort of high yield as possible. Right now, what's on it is how many people they've added to through all three companies. Is just how many people they've added to our CRMs. So just how many contacts we've added, how many direct messages they've sent that day on any sort of platform, and how many positive responses that they got back. So how many people responded with, hey, send me more information or anything like that. And then how many new people have signed up for these businesses. And then I also have incentivized them and sort of invested more. So there are bonuses tied to all of these different goals. And so if they exceed a certain number in each one of these things at the end of the month, they get X amount of dollar bonus, which obviously is encouraging them to work harder.
Yeah, and that bonus structure passes directly to the VA, not to the staffing company. Why is that important to you?
Just as a general philosophy, I really believe in paying people what they're worth. And so if someone is going above and beyond what they're doing or they're just doing a good job and they're exceeding expectations, then they deserve to be compensated appropriately for it. And then I also think that it helps them, buy in and be more invested in the success of these companies. And that to me is incredibly powerful. If you have a team that is, as a business owner, I don't think we can ever expect someone to work as hard as we do or to care more about the success of a business than we do. And so I don't think that's a fair expectation. But if we can get our team as close to that as possible, that's what really matters. A lot of times the success of a company, in my opinion, comes down to your team and your resilience. How long are you willing to struggle with a good team? And I really wanted a team that was invested. And that was another thing about virtual assistants that I wasn't quite sure about how it was going to go. But I know that I have invested virtual assistants now who, again, are bringing their own ideas to the table.
Yeah. It brings leadership to my thought process. And what was the mindset shift that you have to make, or a practice owner will have to make, to go from managing somebody in the room right next to them to managing somebody maybe across the world in a different time zone?
I think, so one, it was just a shift in general because I have a hard time delegating and letting go. I'm a firm believer if you want to do something right, then you have to do it yourself. And so in general, I struggle with that. Even with my staff here, it took me a while to start delegating. And so I can't really say, though, that it was much different. It was a lot easier transition than I thought. With technology now and the ability to have these morning meetings with them. And so I generally meet with them every morning between 8 and 9. Depending on how things are going, but sometimes I'll, only do 2 days a week or 3 days a week, depending on how things are going. So it really just depends on what the needs are. But with those meetings, I feel very well connected with them, both like I see them every day, just like I would any other, employee. So it really hasn't been a struggle at all.
It really takes strong leaders to build great companies, and you're building 4 of them, soon to be more, all at the same time. And that leadership is what allows you to achieve the goals that you have set out. But a lot of people, they struggle in this area of building vision, of seeing holes and gaps. And you seem to have a craft or a knack for that, Dr. Green. How did you, where did that skill come from, or how did you develop that skill? Was it innate? Were you born with it? Or, I mean, share with the viewers maybe a little bit about how you're coming up with such great visions and such great business ideas. What's your process?
I have no clue. What a great question. I think it really comes from the success of my first business, or not even the success, just the process, and just realizing how much I thoroughly enjoyed and was energized by the process of building something, by building Caravel Health. It was just it was like just so different than what I was used to, just working for someone else, right? And that really sparked so now that entrepreneurial spirit. So now I'm just constantly looking at what new things I could build. And I love starting businesses so much that I joke with my wife, our next dogs are going to be named LLC and S Corp, because that's and I think she's scared that every time I come home from work, I'm going to want to open another business. But it really does give me energy, and it gives me so much happiness and joy that I'm constantly thinking about or looking for new ideas to create. Whereas before, I didn't really know how enjoyable it was. And I think, it's not for everyone. So I don't want to say that, but at the same time, I think if someone out there is like, hey, I think, I do want to start this business. I've always wanted to do this, but you're scared. I always ask myself, would I regret doing this and it failing more, or would I regret not doing it and always wondering what if more? So for the direct primary care practice, coming out of training, I asked myself, would I regret trying to start my own practice and it failing, and then 2 or 3 years from now having to tuck my tail between my legs and accept that I tried and just go work for the system and deal with all the negatives that come from working in the healthcare system? Would I regret that more, or would I regret just going right into working in the system, being miserable, always asking myself, oh, what if I would have tried this? What if? And for me, the answer was, I can't go the rest of my life wondering what if. And so I would rather just try it. And if it fails, it fails. And so I tried it. It didn't fail. It became successful. And now I'm kind of doing that, on a repeat, with, would I rather try it and it fail and, whatever, or would hey, I wonder what if I would have started that, virtual fitness company. I wonder what if I would have started that directory. And I can't live in that what if field. So I just had to go for it.
So every episode, I like to ask my guests this question, especially when I'm speaking with a practice owner. And we're just getting back from the HIT Health Summit. And so I have this question on my mind for you, and that is, what do you think is fundamentally broken that nobody's talking about fixing in DPC? I know it's a curveball question. It's not really in line with the virtual assistants, but we're just getting back from that, and you're a perfect person to ask that question to.
Yeah. What's broken about DPC? I think there's still a level of awareness that needs to take place. It's definitely growing, but I still don't think that enough people know about it or understand it enough. But it's coming. And I think that the current system intentionally is so confusing that it's hard to go to another system when you don't even understand the system that you're in and you feel like that's your only option. And so I think just, awareness around how direct primary care fits in with the traditional insurance system and is is one thing that's not necessarily broken, but there's definitely like room for improvement because in my opinion, there's something, obviously I'm biased, right? I'm a direct primary care doctor, but in my opinion, there's something in direct primary care for everyone. If you want a more affordable healthcare, it's there. If you want a more personalized relationship with your doctor, it's there. If you want access, if you need same day, next day visits, if you want to, when you're sick, you want to be seen, it's there. If you want convenience, if you want to be able to text, call, and email your doctor and get a text message the same day, it's there. If you don't want to wait 2 hours in the waiting room to see your doctor for 5 minutes, it's there. Whatever you're looking for, from convenience to affordability to access, direct primary care has it. So there's something in it for everyone. So it's not, to me, it's not a is this for you type of thing. It's, do you understand it? And it's hard. You can't jump into something that you don't understand. So I think that's probably like the biggest area of improvement for direct primary care and the movement is just to continue to spread awareness about what is direct primary care and how it can sort of work for pretty much anyone, and give them better care for less money, which is sort of the best of both worlds.
I love it so much. So then what does the practice look like that's figured out how to work around that lack of awareness? What are they doing differently?
I think really embedding themselves into their communities, because once people start trusting you as a person, they start trusting you as a doctor, and then they can start trusting your practice. And so I moved across the country to a brand new city and didn't know anyone in the town that I was in. And so getting involved with the Chamber of Commerce and the different types of, social clubs like Rotaries, and going to different events and trying to show people like, hey, I care about this community. I'm going to be here. I'm going to support, and, sponsoring things like basketball teams and high school events, and going to these different and putting up tents at health fairs and all these things. And supporting local businesses too, and highlighting that, and sort of connecting with the other business owners in town through whatever it is, however you're going to do it. I think that sort of really what separates people is once communities know that you're invested and then they can start trusting you, that's when they buy in, or they're more willing to listen to what you have to offer. And then once that happens, word of mouth just sort of takes over and expands. And so that's the only reason why I haven't really used Snapscale, the marketing specialist that I have for Caravel, is because I'm full. I don't need to lead people to water when I can't really give them anything to drink, because we're not accepting new patients. So we did just hire someone. So I'm probably going to, hire another virtual assistant to help me out with marketing for Caravel Health and some other companies that are coming down the pipeline for us. But word of mouth sort of really takes over. Once a doctor and once a practice is able to provide a great patient experience, patients will talk about it. When they go right back to the exam room, they spend an hour with their doctor, they feel listened to, they get their labs in the same place, they get their medications in the same place. They call at 7 p.m. for stitches, and you get them in and get them out, and they don't pay anything for it. They tell everyone, because no one does that. And then you tell them, oh, it's $100 a month or $115 a month or whatever it is, the rate is. People are like, are you kidding me? You got that for that amount? And then so that really like just snowballs things.
Yeah. So that really ties into the whole point that I wanted to get to, which is a doctor's listening to this right now. They're running their practice, and they need to bring awareness. They need to get out in the community. They need to do all of this other stuff in order to get the marketing engine of their business really going. And they haven't pulled the trigger yet on virtual support. What's the story in their mind that they're really telling themselves that isn't true?
So I would say like my biggest hesitation was, is it going to work? And even if it doesn't work, what's the quality of the virtual assistant? Those were my two biggest things. Like, and interviewing 8 or so different companies, interviewing 20 different virtual assistants, working with Snapscale really, really closely, I was able to really, really build a lot of confidence that not only was Snapscale delivering the highest quality people, but that it was something that would work from a stance of it's less off my plate, that I could trust these virtual assistants to do the job and to bring other ideas to the table too, which is sort of like an added bonus. And then that allowed me more time to focus on other areas that could help my practice grow too, and sort of take away some of these tasks that I didn't necessarily need to be doing, especially as a business owner or direct primary care doctor. There's so many things that only you can do and that you have to make decisions about. So when you can delegate and trust someone else to do some of these tasks for you and free up your time to do more things, then it becomes sort of a no-brainer. And it was one of those things where, back to my original sort of philosophy, is one of those things where would I regret hiring a virtual assistant and it not working out more, or would I regret not hiring a virtual assistant and for the next 6 months wondering, oh, this company, this company XYZ or isn't growing like I thought it would, because I'm not posting on social media like I should. I'm not doing email campaigns like I should. I'm not doing meta ads like I should. I'm not sending direct messages on Instagram to people. Like, I'm not doing any of these things. I wonder what things would have looked like if for the last 6 months I had hired that VA, and what would that have looked like now? And so for me, it became sort of a clear picture. I need to hire a virtual assistant. And then through my nerding out Excel sheet and ChatGPT and taking all these interviews and things, the clear winner to me became Snapscale. And it's been probably, I don't know, several months, 6 months or so later, I have nothing but great things to say about the virtual assistants that I work with and about the support of Snapscale that I work with. Like, so I meet with my virtual assistants almost every morning from 8 to 9. And every now and then a Snapscale representative will pop in and say, hey, there's no updates for me. Just checking in to see if you need anything. I'm just going to listen in to see if, there's anything I can do for you. And so they're not just like, okay, here's your VA, have fun. They really do help guide and support you if you do need anything that comes up.
It's such an important point that a lot of other VA companies, virtual assistant, remote staffing companies are not doing, which is the managed aspect, the managed service, the active management piece. I'm glad that our team is doing the right things and taking care of you. What was the first sign, though, that this was working, that this was the right solution for you?
That's such an interesting question, because honestly, that like feeling of like, this is what needs to happen for me, came when I interviewed some of the VAs. So it was before they even actually like started working for me, because I interviewed other VAs and just reviewing some of the resumes from the VAs that Snapscale sent. It was just sort of a night and day difference. And then I was like, okay, well, let me interview them, and the quality of candidate was just higher. And so that was the first like sort of like, okay, this is the right direction for me. I'm going to hire a full-time VA, even though I didn't want to. And then of course, the other one that I hired ended up being within that same group of 3, and I couldn't choose between the two. And so I ended up hiring both of them. But to me, that was sort of like the main, the first aha moment. The second aha moment came when they first started showing me that they had bought in, that they weren't just listening to me giving them task and putting a check mark beside it and asking me what the next task was. They were actively doing things that I wasn't asking them to do, because they were invested in the company, because they were sort of going above and beyond and saying like, oh, like this is what we should be doing, so I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then I'll let Dr. Green know. Or for example, like, they were, during those morning meetings, they're giving me ideas about things that maybe we should be doing or could be doing to help grow. And I don't, obviously, like, this is the only VA company that I have worked with and will probably ever work with. But I didn't really get that sense of that being the case with any other virtual assistant that I interviewed, or any other virtual assistant companies that I interviewed. It didn't seem like their VAs were going to be invested in the businesses. It seemed like their VAs were task completers, which is fine. And I think that's great for a lot of companies. But to me, it was really important to have someone that I felt like was going to be passionate about it and wanted to help the business grow and sort of grow with the business. And Snapscale to me is like the best at finding candidates who do that.
Such a great answer, and it's so positive. And I want to balance this conversation out a little bit because I don't want everybody to think that everything is perfect all the time and virtual assistants are just the greatest thing that ever happened. It's true that they're helpful and they're supportive and they help practices grow. But what's one thing you wish you had set up differently in the first week?
Um, that is such a great question. Because I was so invested in making this a smooth transition and I had that onboarding packet, there's not a lot I think that I would have done differently. Yeah, I can't think of. I think one thing that may have made the process a little bit smoother if I had been more organized with creating their own accounts for things and getting the emails and all set up for different things, because that took longer than anticipated to make sure they had access to everything they needed. Um, but a lot of those things are hard to anticipate. So I did the best that I could with that onboarding packet, and AI helped me a lot with that. And I met with them as a team. The other thing that I did that I thought was important too was I met with them as a team, and like I said, we meet most mornings. But I also take time, once or twice a month to meet with both of them individually too, to check in and get a pulse and make sure that I'm not overworking them and they're not feeling overwhelmed, because organization is such a huge thing when you have one VA or two VAs, but they're both working on different projects for all three companies. And so I have there's the amount of tasks that I'm having them do is pretty endless. And so we prioritize and try to stay organized and all those things. But I think one of the things that maybe I could do more often is meet with them individually and just have like, how are you doing? Are you overwhelmed? Every time I have that, they never say that they are. They don't feel like they are. But I think that also, from a leadership perspective, just reassures them that I really do care about them. And by doing that, I think it enables them to care more about the companies. When they feel like who they're working for, who they're working with, cares about them and their health and their well-being and all those things, they feel more, they're more likely to work harder for you.
Yeah. I personally care tremendously about each and every Snapscale client that brings on virtual assistants with us. And I was watching your account and noticed that after 3 months, your initial virtual assistant ended up going on and going back to school and working towards getting their MBA. And so that left you without a virtual assistant. Can you tell the audience a little bit, Dr. Green, about that process and what happened?
Yeah, that hurt. Because at the 3-month mark, we were really rolling. Like, we had finally gotten past some of those growth and I felt like we were finally, coming together as a team and had some systems built. And so that hurt. But at the same time, I absolutely love the fact that the virtual assistant was going to further her education and grow. And so I completely supported that move. But that definitely came as a shock to both myself and Snapscale. But Snapscale really, really stepped up and made that transition to another virtual assistant super smooth. They actually gave me, or you guys, actually gave me one of your own virtual assistants who you were using that was doing some of the marketing for Snapscale. And obviously, you guys kind of get first choice, right? Like, if you have this candidate that you can't pass up and you need to hire, then you're just going to hire them. And so they basically just said, hey, we didn't expect it. She didn't really expect it, but we have this great candidate who's going to fit seamlessly right in. And there wasn't a misstep. I mean, that the first week was, okay, let's make sure that you have your logins. I already had the onboarding package already, ready to go. So I just sent him that. He read through it and boom. So after the first week, there really wasn't even a delay that first week. but fit right in, was a very smooth process. And I think it really highlights, just what Snapscale is willing to do for their clients, because the VA that I have is really, really good. So the fact that they were willing to say, "Hey, we need to make sure that this client is happy with the VA, because this is a situation that they couldn't anticipate it, I didn't anticipate it, but we need to make sure that we do what's best for our client." Really, I think says a lot about the company.
Yeah, and now I'm training a new marketing person on my team.
Yeah. Sorry, not sorry. I love the person.
No, that's we absolutely want to make sure that our clients are happy, and I think it's important for people to know that it doesn't always work out perfectly. These are people, right? They have life, they have different situations that come up, and I appreciate the way that we are client centric and we're focused on making sure our clients are taken care of. Now, last question on the operational side for you. If a clinic owner is listening right now and wants to take one concrete step towards building a virtual team in the next 30 days, not hiring a virtual assistant, but prior to, what's that one step that they should take?
Oh, just reach out to Snapscale, get set up. Again, looking at my Excel sheet, right? Snapscale was not number one for me because they didn't have part-time, and that was like priority number one for me. But I still went through their process and was just so impressed by them and their virtual assistants that the other experiences were just so subpar. It made the decision so clear. So I would say, if you're even thinking about it, then just do it, because why not? And what would you regret more, right? Would you regret doing it and it not working out, or scheduling a quick meeting and saying, okay, this isn't for me? Or 6 months from now, are you going to be thinking, oh, I wonder what my practice or what my business would look like had I hired that virtual assistant? So I would just say do it. And then the other thing too, which is an important note as a business owner, and why to go the virtual assistant route. We always think about cost effectiveness, and when you look at the rates and all those things, obviously they're good, but from a business owner perspective and people management perspective, not having to manage vacation time, and not having to manage benefits, and not having to do payroll, having to pay payroll tax, which I'm in California, so taxes really upset me. But not having to do or think about those things is also such a stress release and something off my plate, to where if I were to hire another medical assistant, or if I were to hire someone that were in person and having to do all those things, it would just be a headache. So that's another great thing I love about virtual assistants and Snapscale, is that all that stuff is kind of handled for me, and billing is super transparent, super easy. And so that's another huge benefit of going this route.
I love all your answers, and I'm sure that all of the audience has the same question I do, because I know our audience. You're building 4 companies, going on more right now. What do you do to balance that out? How do you decompress? Or are you always 100 miles an hour dealing with business stuff?
Yeah, no, I kind of am. It's like I said, this growing something and growing businesses, I've found, and this is kind of a new thing for me over the last year and a half, to maybe 2 years, but starting the practice, Caravel Health, really sparked this spirit where growing businesses is something that I enjoy, and it gives me energy. So working on businesses and growing these companies gives me energy. So everybody has their hobbies, right? Some people like to golf, or to play pickleball, or knit, or draw, or paint, or whatever. My hobby is sort of working in all these other businesses. My job is being a doctor and taking care of patients, but my hobbies are starting all these other businesses. And so, the challenge that I have is balancing that more with family time than anything, because working is kind of fun for me at this point on these businesses. And so just prioritizing family and personal health too is another thing, making sure I sleep and eat healthy and exercise. It kind of takes the back seat, because family comes first and that comes second. So, but that's sort of, and I struggle with it. I that's something that I definitely need to do better. And that just sort of brings me back to why having a VA is so valuable, because if I didn't have them, I wouldn't get any sleep or any time with my family. Having to manage all these social media accounts and doing all the things that they do, there's no way I could do what they do and still have an ounce of time with my family. So anything, and I'm able to give them quite a lot of stuff, and everything that I give them is one less thing that I have to do, and I trust them, which is like another thing where like I said, just to start, very, very difficult time delegating. If something needs to be done right, I have to do it. So now that, I've been with them for 6 months and I'm starting to trust them more and more and more, I'm having to give them more and more and more. That's allowing me more time to spend with my family. And that's a huge, really, you can't put a price on that, right?
No, you can't put a price on how much time you spend with your family. And the more that we can take off your plate so that your wonderful family has more time with you, that's what makes me feel better.
Yeah. Just another benefit of going this route.
Yeah. Last question, and I like to ask this of guests because I think it's helpful. And that is one book that changed how you think about leadership or business, and it doesn't have to be a recent book.
The last book I read was The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, or something like that. And I listened to it, the audiobook, and I really, really enjoyed that book. It is, I think that there is something to say about business, because, one way that I look at it from a business perspective is like, you really have to think about what you're actually caring about. Right. And so as business owners, we have to make so many decisions, and sometimes a good decision now is better than a perfect decision, 3 months from now. Like sometimes you just got to make a decision. And so thinking about what decisions that that need you to sit down and take time about versus what decisions just make a decision and move with it. That the book is from that perspective. It says like really evaluate what you're giving an F about, really evaluate that, really, really think about what you're caring about. But it also talks about that on a personal level too, so that would be the one that I would say, just read it because it helps in all different areas of life. Or read it or listen to it. It's a good sort of entertaining book with, I think, a good philosophy.
Yeah, I agree. I've read that book myself. And Dr. Green, it has been such a pleasure having you on our show, on the Snapscale show. You are an inspiration to a lot of DPC clinics across the country. And if you haven't been yet, you will be after they listen to this show, because they are going to take away so much value from everything that you're able to share. Everything from, understanding the right mindset of going into practice for yourself, looking at problems and opportunities as opportunities in the industry, finding ways to solve your own challenges with virtual assistants or through remote staff, and giving yourself more time with your family. Those things will live with people for a very long time. Any final words? I really appreciate you spending time with us on the show.
Not really. Just to the audience, like I said, if you're even thinking about it, just take a meeting, and to learn more. And I have a ton of confidence in Snapscale and the quality of candidates that they offer. And the reason that I have a ton of confidence is because of the amount of work and effort I put into researching all the different virtual assistant companies and having worked with them for over the last 6 months. And so I've sort of tested the product as well. So I have a lot of confidence in them and what they offer. And so just meet with them or meet a couple of virtual assistants. And again, always think about, what would you regret more, doing it and it not working out and being like, oh, well, it didn't work out, let me move on and take a deep breath? Or would you regret 6 months from now, a year from now, wondering, oh, what if I would have hired a VA? How would my business be different? Or how would my life be different? Would I have spent more time with my family? And would my business be more successful? So that would be my key takeaway.
Well, awesome. Thank you very much, Dr. Green, for being a part of the show. I will include the links to your different businesses in the show notes for anybody that's interested in those different businesses or that would need to get in contact with you. Again, I hope you have a great week, and thank you for taking the time with the audience.
Thanks. Of course. It was great talking to you, and it's an honor to be invited on the show. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, guys. If you're running a private practice, direct primary care, physical therapy, audiology, whatever your clinic is, you can hear directly from Dr. Green about his passion for building businesses and how those businesses only are growing because he's able to offload the support that he needs with very competent, very talented staff members that go above and beyond and do the hard work that, quite frankly, would be too expensive to have somebody stateside do. And it's incredible when you start working with the right organization, a HIPAA-compliant remote staffing organization like Snapscale, who finds quality talent. It's amazing how much they can lift off you and give you back your family time. I'll close out by just letting you guys know, if you'd like this show and you want this information, subscribe to the podcast. Go to snapscale.com/podcast. Again, that's snapscale.com/podcast, and register to receive upcoming shows. If you like this show, you're going to love some of the other future shows that we have for you as well. Again, that's snapscale.com/podcast. Until next time, guys, see ya.